Hey guys, welcome back. So if you've been watching my videos over the last couple of months, you know that this winter has not been the kindest on my plants. They've taken a little bit of a beating, mainly I think because I went away at the very start of winter for a few weeks and like that I was gone for a big chunk of December. So it's been a couple of months of just trying to get back into the swing of things. So I repotted a ton of things when I came home. I did some root rot treatments, mainly for dry rot, the things that completely dried out while I was gone, and mainly just getting into the swing of like being on schedule, like being and visiting with my plants and watering them before they dry out. And now I feel like we're finally getting to a place where things are starting to put out beautiful growth again. So this whole video was inspired by one plant that's right in the corner of my grow tent that I cannot fully see the whole thing, and I want to get it out and I want to see this beautiful new leaf it just put out. And I've been noticing some other growth around the room that I'm just pretty excited about. So let's just look at new leaves. It is a beautiful, gorgeous sunny day outside. I'm starting to feel like spring is creeping in now. I'm personally feeling very optimistic about my collection. So without further ado, I want to get this plant out. Let's go look at it. Oh my gosh, those veins. This is my beev, and this is the plant that inspired everything. I've been kind of creeping on this from like behind leaves, behind shelves. This is my Paul beev. So I have three beevs. This is one's from Paul, I have one from Grant, I have one from Jorge. This is like the first beev I ever gotten. I got this from my friend Amanda, who got it from Paul as a seedling. If I remember correctly, I was asking her to buy one of her beevs, and then she was showing me a bunch, and she showed me this one was cut from one of her plants, and she was like, I think this is my favorite one. And she wanted me to have this one, but she sent me the Grant one as like a double, just in case I didn't like this one, or just in case this one didn't grow well for me. This one has been growing fine for me as far as beevs go. I find beevs pretty difficult. I find them difficult to keep pristine leaves. They always yellow on the edges. They grow really slow for me. I think in general, I think people will say that they're not the easiest Anthurium. Like you just will have a bit more struggle. They're a little bit more sensitive. But this one, now that I got it out, I see that it's gotten a little bit of a growth spurt in the root department. I haven't seen new roots on it for a while. There's a new root poking out of the stem right here. There's one just extended into the substrate. Let's see, it goes right here. I've been having trouble keeping it dark, so I just kind of stuck it into the darkest corner of my grow tent. There is literally a spider, like there are cobwebs back there. It's a place in my grow tent that I feel is the darkest corner, and I'm just trying to see if I can grow really, really dark beev because I think that this specimen has it in it. Not all beevs are super dark. So like if you're buying a beev thinking like I can just buy any beev and it'll be like almost black, I don't think that's the case. But of all the leaves that I've grown on this plant, this one has the reddest veins. If I pull it back, it'll probably be a little bit less blown out, but it is really, really vibrant. It's almost like a neon salmon pink in person. If I feel the leaf, it's not extremely floppy. It's definitely soft, but I'm pretty sure this is about done growing. So it's not a size up from the leaf before it. I've sent a piece of this plant to Owen, or Growing Plants on Instagram, and he's been sending me updates. He's definitely grown more leaves than I have in the same amount of time, like since I sent it to him. And he's able to keep it a lot darker. And he says he basically grows it in the dark, but he's been having trouble getting roots to grow on it. So some of you guys know that I've been on a mission to figure out beev. Like, what do they like for like moisture in the substrate? How constant, how wet do we keep the soil or whatever substrate? What kind of light do they like? What kind of humidity they like? I think everyone's kind of in agreement that beeves are just a high humidity plant. Like it's really hard to acclimate them down. How to keep them, did I already say how to keep the foliage dark? How to keep it from yellowing like this? How to encourage the growth rate to be fast? And I want to say I've gotten a lot of mixed opinions, and that probably just has to do with variability on beev, but I hear from Owen that he keeps his growing in the dark, and it obviously grows. It's grown like, I think probably like 5 leaves in the span of maybe 9-10 months. And from what I remember of Owen's, his don't really yellow. Like he can keep multiple nice looking leaves on the plant. And I've also asked Josh from Phyto Rot, Pao and Josh, I've asked him like what kind of light he keeps his beev in because they're really, really dark, like super velvety and delicious and black. And he says that he keeps it in Carla light. So that's his way of saying is bright light. Like he'll say like Carla light or Dressler light, and dress light is like dark, very, very dark. And I've seen his grow tent, like his grow tent is like a massive, I don't know, like 8x5 or something. And there's shelves, and the beev that's right at the front of the shelf is like fully in exposure to the grow lights. So I haven't really figured it out for myself. And I have a feeling it's gonna be something different with every beev specimen that I own. But this one, I just see more roots. I haven't really done anything different though. Should I change things up? Should I put it into, no, if I give it more light, it's going to be more of a green beev. So I think I should keep it darker, but I don't know how to like size it up. It's been in caterpillar for a while. It hasn't flowered for me. I guess one thing I could do is like re-inoculate it with myco, see if I can get those roots to get stronger. Maybe it'll size up then. But for now, what I can say is it doesn't drink very heavily. I very rarely have to water it. It gives me a new leaf once every 4 months or so. Like it's on the slow side for sure. Maybe it's the feed. I give this TPS1 and CalMag every now and then. I just don't know how to combat this. This is like my main problem with this yellowing halo on every leaf. Every leaf has it, at least to some extent. This is an older leaf. This one was probably my favorite leaf it's ever grown because it was like so pillowy and beautiful. So unless someone with like a lot of beev experience can tell me like, this is exactly what I do with all my beev and it works really, really well. Like I think it might be a feed thing. I honestly don't know. Then I'm probably gonna just keep it the way it is. I love this plant a lot, and this has always been my favorite beev in my collection, but it's never been like one of my overarching favorites just because there's like ups and downs with it, and I can't keep like a nice full bushy plant with all pristine leaves. But anyway, I'm glad I got this one out and I can finally see those red veins. By the way, if it wasn't already obvious, this is growing in tree fern soil mix. Another plant that's made a bit of a comeback is this HU red crystal, or King of Spades red crystallinum. This is one that I imported from Indonesia, and when I was gone, I did a little bit of this was after I came back, I believe. I'm just checking the upload dates. So this was in my back from vacation video, and I did a bit of a walkthrough my collection to show you like what the new growth that happened while I was away and like the sad plants, and this was one of the sad plants. So it had put out a leaf while I was gone, but you know, like if you grow Anthurium, you'll know that sometimes like they'll put out a leaf, but the leaf never expands and it just kind of dies off right at the tip of the petiole. So the actual leaf itself is just like shriveled off and dies. It's not even on the plant anymore, so I can't even show you, but it did abort one leaf. And then pretty soon after that, I put out this leaf, and it's been fully hardened off for a while now, and it's so cute. It's a little bit scrunchy because imagine this is my tent and this is the tent wall, so it's kind of growing into the side, but I couldn't really rotate it because it's packed on that shelf, and it decided it wanted to lean into the wall. So I mean, there wasn't much I could do about that, but it's so pretty, and it's so dark for being quite high light. So there's light from above, and there's like a vertical barina like facing it here, and there's the light up here. This was a leaf that it grew before I left, so right before the aborted leaf. I think this is from pest sprays with the light on. That was my guess. And then after this leaf was the leaf that never fully formed, so I was pretty discouraged from this plant. But this leaf grew. Okay, so this was on my wish list a couple of years ago, the HU red crystal, and it was mainly due to this photo from Cartel. And I just look at that photo and it's so red crystal leaning. It's so bleedy and it's so colorful. I'll say my specimen is not as red as this one, but the veins are like the patterning of it, the silver, the bleeding, that's exactly what I wanted. It's finally sizing up now, and I can probably get it upsized in a pot as soon as I can reconfigure that area and make sure that I have room for that pot. But one thing I was saying, like when I first got the plant, here is one of the import leaves. So oftentimes when you import from tropical areas like Indonesia, Ecuador, a lot of the leaves will be a lot brighter of a green, and they'll be a little bit thinner. And like the thinness I'm attributing to possibly feed and possibly the constant really, really high humidity that they get. Because typically when things come in, they start to grow leaves that are darker and a little bit meatier, a little bit thicker, a little bit more texture. And I can say like this is definitely a lot thicker of a leaf at this point than this import layer. And you can probably see how like thin and kind of pliable it is. And here's an older leaf. This was the one that grew prior to this one. So that's three leaves ago. And it has more of a thick texture. It's a lot more leathery. So I got this from Ardian Plant in Indonesia. He told me that he got them as seed from Haji Uli. I got 2 specimens from him, and I'll show you the other one. It's been growing in ambient, and it's a lot smaller because this one grows in my tent. This one grows in the shelf behind me. This one is very cute because it's so round, but you can see how much smaller it is, but it is really dark. This one's definitely more colorful, and the emergent leaves are really bright purple. But this one has the veins that steal my heart. Like the silver on it is just exquisite. But for some reason, this one's smaller, it lives in ambient, and it started flowering. Whereas this one has never flowered for me. So if I'm looking at these two and I had to like purge one, which I am still trying to edit down my collection, this one is the one I'll keep. And this one is probably the one I would purge. I'm not in a hurry to purge it because I still really, really like this plant. But if I had to, I would definitely say goodbye to this one before this one. By the way, my body hurts so bad today. Last night we decided we really, really wanted burgers. So we ordered burgers from this new place we never tried before, but we always wanted to try. They were smash burgers and they were so salty. So I feel very dehydrated. You know how you just chug water, but you just feel dry? And then I slept really weird. So when I move in a certain way, like these zings will go down like my neck down to like my left shoulder blade kind of. Anyway, I just feel really old today. Okay, next plant is this little stunner. This one is a lost tag that I got from Amanda, which I feel like we could still probably ID it, but I think it's crystallinum, just like a straight up crystallinum. So this one was shipped to us last year and it was shipped in the winter, and we told her not to put heat packs in because like we were like, oh, it's fine. It's like not freezing cold. So she just sent it. There was some cold damage and this one just kind of died back to a stump, and it's been growing ever since, and it's been so cute. I haven't been able to size it up. Weirdly, I think I probably need to repot it, but I just was trying to leave it alone and just let it root out because it was like a really sad little stump for a while. And this thing has kind of gone through it. So this one lives in this exo, just right at the very top, very close to grow lights. It's been able to grow quite nice and dark leaves, but it did get thrips at one point. I'm pretty sure you can see all the silvery squiggles in here. This was a leaf that grew, I believe, right before I went on holiday, and since then it's been growing really slowly. It's only put out this one leaf, but it's so cute. Like it's very dark. The veins are so crisp, and it under this light is looking quite like kind of bluey browny black, but under those grow lights it's super purple. And I love this leaf because it's so veiny that it almost looks like a shrunken down version of a much more mature leaf. Does that make sense? Like if you didn't have the context clues of everything around it and all you saw was this, you might think that it's a very large plant with the shrunken down image. And I'm just in love with that color and those veins. Like, oh my goodness. Like when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking it has to be a prop of her like massive giant crystallinum that used to take over her kitchen. And I think she chopped it up into pieces. I'll probably have to grow it out a little bit more to like much more mature foliage for her to ID it. I'm not in a hurry. I'm pretty sure it's crystallinum and it's stunning. I can't even tell you how the roots are because it lives in such high light that there's so much algae. I will say there is a rotted root coming out the bottom. Can you see it right there? But it is growing. I think I want to repot it and kind of see what the roots are. The spot that it grows in, right at the very top there, it gets a lot of light, so plants tend to dry out a lot. And I will say I'm pretty on top of watering in this room, but that spot in particular dries out the fastest. So a lot of plants up there don't do very well, but I kind of need that space. So I just need to like make sure that I'm a little bit more on top of things. Anything smaller than this size pot will just dry out really fast. So I've grown plants up there in smaller pots and they do so poorly until I can get them upsized or until I move them away where I can actually keep on top of the watering. So I'm not surprised that this plant is still so small, but this leaf, oh my gosh, this is the best leaf it's ever grown for me. It's so cute. A few weeks ago, I posted my first plant haul of 2025 and I got a whole bunch of plants from the States. And this plant was in it. The emergent leaf was already out. I just want to show you guys how it expanded. This is the Queen clarinervium from Dania. And this plant came from Cartel originally, but look at that leaf. It's so veiny. Like prior to that, I think it looked very much like a clarinervium, like a regular one, kind of. Like not quite like, but very similar to. Here are the leaves before it. And this leaf is definitely much veinier, starting to look like the Queen Clary venation pattern. The shape is kind of coming out a little bit. The Queen Clary kind of looks more like an inverted triangle generally in shape. And surprisingly, I've been able to keep it alive. I've been letting it dry out. You can see the color of the soil is fairly dry. It's not 100% dry. And it's been doing okay. We'll see if it puts out a leaf in my care, because I didn't grow this leaf. I just let it expand in my care, but it was Dania who grew out this leaf. It was already emerged when she sent it. I fully expect that this is going to be a slow grower in my care. I think clarinervium is pretty slow in general, even for the people who can grow it well. I'm not one of them. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the next one and see if like the veins get even crazier. So if you're in the market for a Queen Clary, I will say, if you get one from Cartel or someone who's selling locally in the States and you can see the mother plant, I would highly recommend it because this thing is so cute. So in another recent video, I did a root rot treatment, like a really quick repot of a few plants that just needed a little bit of boost. So they're all growing in tree fern soil, I'm pretty sure, but I moved them all into like a tree fern heavily amended with perlite mix. And it's only been a couple weeks. Let me see when I posted that video. So I believe I filmed that video 1, 2, 3 weeks ago. So I won't have like a massive update for you, but some people were asking me how those plants are doing that I rehabbed in that substrate. So don't expect like the most craziest transformation. It's only been 3 weeks, but this is my Carla Wutu self that had a bunch of root rot, and it was basically frozen in time. It just completely stalled out after I cut it. It did root in after I cut it, but it wasn't doing anything in terms of growth in the leaf department. But since the repot, it has slowly started to push a leaf. I don't know if you can see the caterpillar here. It is starting to bulge. I do need to spray it so that this caterpillar can probably come out, but it's starting to move again, which is very exciting. I don't really see any root growth though, but something is happening. It could just be rooting out into the center of the pot, and I don't see it on the sides of the pot yet. But as long as the leaves are not declining, it's not looking like super soft and wilty, and the growth point is active, that's good. I will keep monitoring it, but so far I feel like that was a good move for this plant because it's starting back up again. Another plant I moved into that mix is this Carla Black Widow Michelle, aka one of my favorite plants, and it was really like, it looked like this, like a taquito. All the leaves are curled back. Again, I don't see a ton of roots in the pot, but it has started to push a big fat, can you see it? There's a big root that's pushing out here that's going to be going into substrate anytime soon. I don't know if this leaf is going to ever straighten back out. I mean, I hope so, but I wouldn't be surprised if it stayed like this. But it did push a leaf, which is really encouraging. And I can't wait for this to grow out, and I can't wait for this to just start sizing up for me. I just want to know what it's going to look like. But this one I think is happy in that transition. And then the little Carla 1x6, this is the one I think it's a little bit, like I wouldn't call it a runt, but it's like a little runty. This one actually didn't have bad roots. I couldn't see it in the pot that I was in, but I moved it out of tree fern. It was like a tree fern soil mixed with like zeolite, orchiata, charcoal mix. And I see a little bit of root growth here. And it did push out this leaf. Unfortunately, the tip got damage on the side of the pot, but those veins look very interesting. It won't grow very pretty, I don't think, because half the leaf is damaged, but I am encouraged by seeing the extra little bit of roots, but I don't expect this plant ever to be like a massive robust thing. Like I just don't think that genetically has it in it, but we love it and we want the best for it. And I think that was also a good move for this plant too. Okay, so one last one I want to show you from that root rot repot is this King of Spades or King of Spades Selfling, something like that. So this one had been living in my Millsville cabinet, and that's honestly, I wanted that cabinet to be an orchid and baby Anthurium paradise, but in reality, I neglect my living room plants very badly, and so the Anthurium are not very happy in there. It's completely my fault. It's not really the environment, it's just my lack of watering. So this one had 0 roots, like everything dry rotted off. So I was left with stumps with like all these little cut off nubbins of roots. And if you watch that video, you remember that this leaf was super curled. This is the newest leaf. The older leaf is starting to go, but this one has put out a big juicy root in the substrate. You can kind of see it on the side of the pot here. And it's looking so much better. It's living inside 100% humidity right now. So I think regardless of the substrate, it probably would have responded the same way. Like it was so dehydrated and so neglected for so long, and now it's in optimal conditions. So I don't think this one needs to stay in here. It's probably kind of overwatered a little bit. I'm gonna dump this water out. I just dumped that reservoir into my Diablo ones. But this one also is doing really great. So I will say if you have a plant that has lost all its roots like that, I don't think it has to be tree fern, but it lives inside of a dome. I'll show you. It's just an IKEA bin and an inverted IKEA bin on top. I use this for like my taller props. My red vein dark phoenix is in here as well. I've got some stumps in here. And things are waking up. I chopped a forgetti. This one is for Owen. If you're watching, Owen, this one's for you. But in general, they're just like cuttings, like stumps. When they put out their first leaf, they're gonna need a little bit more vertical room. And it's just been living right here and doing great. So 2024 was the year that I bred the most with my Anthurium. I had said in the past that I wasn't really that interested in it, but then after I started acquiring more interesting plants that I actually wanted to breed with, and it was kind of a surprise to me that I was actually growing them to a size that they were mature enough to flower and strong enough to breed with. And the other day I was like in here and I was just looking at these like bins and bins of seedlings. I'm like, I made these seedlings. It's kind of crazy. It still blows my mind to this day that I can create something, like seeing these things mature. And I kind of just want to show you some of them because they make me really proud. I cannot believe that I did that. And prior to 2024, I did breed Anthurium a few times and I've had grown those out and they were fine. They're cute. I like them a lot. They always hold a special place in my heart, but they weren't like the species or hybrids that was super exciting to me. Like they weren't my favorite Anthurium. So now that some of these are growing out, I want to show you what's exciting to me. So this is one of the first ones I did last year, and this one is Papyri5 crossed with Fortune ralphinum, and I did this pollination sometime around March of 2024, and it took, I think, somewhere between 3 and 4 months for berries to form. So I think I harvested this around late summer, something like that. And I think I have like just a handful left, maybe 3 or 4 left. And this is probably my favorite because I love how dark it is and how elongated, slender, and how pointy the little lobes are. Here's an older leaf, also like super skinny. This is the other one I kept from this batch. Also quite dark, also quite slender. Oh my gosh, look at that. This leaf got smushed because it was growing into the lid of a dome. So these both now live inside my tent where they have room to expand. Just put out a new leaf. We also did another collaboration last year, me and Charmaine. So the mother plant was her Anthurium Brielle, and then the pollen parent was my black crystal. This one was one of the runtier ones, but it's probably my favorite. It was stuck at this really tiny size for quite a few leaves and it wasn't really sizing up, and then all of a sudden it put out this leaf and I thought it was so cute because it was very similar to that crystal I showed you earlier where it kind of is so veiny and the veins are so intricate that you would think that it was a more mature leaf, but it's just like a little tiny thing. This is the leaf it put out after. I've been finding this hybrid quite tricky to get the lighting correct. Like they bleach so easily, and I think that's the Brielle talking because I have a Brielle, which is a prop of Charmaine's mother plant, but I only just got it, so I don't have a ton of experience with it. But from what she told me, she grows it in her living room shelf, and previously it had like no grow light, so it was getting all natural light very far away from the window, and in the winter months it's like maybe 30-foot candles of light, and she said it's like happy as a clam in that light. So when I was putting it under grow lights, these things were bleaching like crazy. So this one being like my favorite in terms of the venation, I put this into my tent. It's like kind of sitting on the floor and it's being shaded by other plants and it seems to be happy. It's really quite small. It's the smallest one that I have, but it's very, very cute. Another collab I did with Charmaine. I just showed this very recently, but you guys have not seen the new leaf. Oh my gosh, this is Red Crystal Port, her mother plant, crossed with my King of Spades. Look how cute it's getting. It's gotten so big. It needs a repot. This thing has filled out this pot entirely. When I potted this, it was technically boat mode. It was just like a tiny little seedling and I put it in, it was basically swimming in this pot, and it's been living here for quite a few months and it's ready for a big one. I am tempted to not get it into the 4-inch square pot. I want to get it into the 5-inch square pot and just see how big the next leaf is. I actually think I'm going to do that. So I will keep you guys posted, but I am so in love with this hybrid. I only have 2 of these because, like I mentioned in the past, ton of the seeds rotted. So a lot of the plants that I was pollinating with King of Spades had rotted seeds, which was very, very disheartening because I was really excited for these hybrids. This is the second one, so it's a lot smaller, but it started to size up recently, so it could just be a little bit of a straggler, but I wouldn't rule it out as an unhealthy plant. So this one hasn't filled out the pot yet, so I will be keeping it in this for a while longer. This one's ready to move out of the dome or the bin. Currently it lives in here. It's just enough height for it now, so the next leaf is definitely gonna smash into the lid. And I think it's been quite a long time since I've boat moded a plant, because I try to keep on top of the upsizing, but I'm not like boat moding in terms of like putting a small plant into a massive pot, because I don't have the space for it. For this one, I will make an exception and I will just find the space for the plant. But I definitely haven't been doing boat mode that much. I've just been trying to like incrementally size up the pot. As soon as the roots fill out the pot, I try to size it up in an ideal world. But anyway, this one, I have convinced myself that it's ready for, if not the 5-inch square pot, maybe like a round pot. I'll have to see what I have, but that's my plan for this one. I cannot believe how cute and round and how King of Spades leaning this hybrid is. Here's the leaf before it. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. It's so round, I want to eat it. Oh my goodness. Charmaine's just posted a photo of hers and it looks so similar. They're both very King of Spades leaning. I think she also has 2, maybe 3. She might have 3. But this one's the only one that has been growing strongly for me. And then another collab I did last year with Jing is we did 2. So we did 2 pollinations on her Dark Phoenix. So her Dark Phoenix was putting out 2 inflows simultaneously. So on the first inflow, we put Pap RE5. I'll show you those first. These were harvested late summer. So this was maybe August, and they're growing out really cute. They do look very Dark Phoenix, like you can see the venation, the quiltedness, but it's still so young. I do expect that it will be very Dark Phoenix leaning. I have way too many of these because I expect that they're going to look super similar, so I don't need to hold back a whole bunch just to see how they'll turn out, because I think the difference will be negligible. This is not quite as quilty, but it does have that shape. I think this one might look a little bit more pap, but you know, like both parent plants are very similar. My Pap RE5 is quite bumpy, it's quite round, it has overlapping lobes. Here's another one that is really nice and bumpy as well. I have 3, 6, like 10 of them. I will keep like 2 max, but I did try to sell as many as I could on the website, planthappens.com, when we did the restock last time, and most of them moved. I didn't actually end up loading all of them onto the website. So I think there's maybe like 1 or 2 left. I was selling them for $35 Canadian. So that's like $1 US. So I will probably, the next time we do a sale, I don't know if it's going to be a live sale or a website restock, but I'll put the rest of them on there and I'm just gonna keep it at $35. I don't think Dark Phoenix or Paps or hybrids of the 2 are that high in demand, because I think a lot of people just have it, but if you want it, you already have it. But I think this time I'll list them individually so people can choose exactly which specimen they want. So like I said, we pollinated the Dark Phoenix twice and they were back to back. The Papillamnum batch was super fast and they were done really quickly and they all started germinating really quickly. And then the second inflow we pollinated was with King of Spades. I think it took a little bit longer, and that one also had a lot of seeds rot. So I think Jing had harvested maybe around 80 seeds off of the King of Spades in fructescence, and they were fresh seeds when IS rolled around, so we got it all prepared. I was gonna bring some seeds down for Pao and Josh, but when we got there, I was like looking at these seeds and they were like brown, translucent, rotted, and Jing was saying that a lot of the seeds that she was harvesting, planting, were just turning brown, which was really strange because that, like, I think the Pap batch was like 100% germination rate. So the funny thing is, like, we did do everything properly. So when we were going from Canada to the States, even if you're traveling with the plant, you do need a phytosanitary certificate. You don't need a phyto coming back into Canada if you are accompanying the plant and the plant is like okay to bring in. But anyway, we weren't going to like smuggle plants into the States and like ruin our Miami trip just to save a few bucks. So we did, or she did, the proper phytosanitary inspection, and then like it was just seeds, I think. How it works is you book the inspection, the inspector comes to you, which I don't really love for the inspectors because that's kind of like kind of dangerous, like just to walk into someone's house. But in fairness, I think most inspectors are going into a business and not someone's home. But they went to Jing's home and she just like, so I'm bringing these seeds. So the inspector just stood at the front door. I was just like looking in this cup and was just like, okay, that's seeds, and passed it. Anyway, of those 80 seeds, I think we ended up with maybe 20 viable seedlings, but they're actually turning out quite cute. They're finally starting to size up. I have 3, 6, 8. I think I gave a couple away. This is the biggest one so far. It's definitely starting to size up. I don't think it needs a repot yet, but I do want to just top this up with more soil, just cover those roots. But I'm very, very hopeful that it's going to show some visible veins. I want visible veins like King of Spades. I don't think it's going to be like this, but I want something. I don't want just Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix is a very strong parent in that like a lot of Dark Phoenix hybrids just look like Dark Phoenix, but also King of Spades is quite a strong parent. So I want to see at least some of them show. Like this one is looking pretty promising, right? Like there are definitely visible veins in there. This one has been so close to dying so many times because this is at the back of the box, like here. And this side of the box is where the floor vent is, where the heating is coming up. So these 3 pots right here are constantly getting dry, and I always catch it right when it's like about to wilt. So we've had a couple of close calls, but thankfully it hasn't like completely ruined the plant. So I'm looking at this one and I do see, and I don't think the camera's gonna pick it up, but there is sparkle in these very thin little veins. And overall, a lot of them are just like really round and really wide in the leaf. Kind of, this one looks very Dark Phoenix heavy, but just really fat. Where's another one? This one, also super fat. I am extremely excited about these ones. So I don't plan on selling these anytime soon. I want to grow them out. I would love to see one that's very King of Spades leaning. Well, I don't know what I'm hoping for, because King of Spades and Dark Phoenix are just so different. So maybe something that looks very King of Spadesy, but very quilted like a Dark Phoenix, maybe with the ears. I don't know. Maybe like Dark Phoenix with more color. I don't really know. But this first one that I showed you is definitely like, that's what got me super excited about this, because now we're graduating into something that looks a little bit more than just a seedling. But I'm hoping that with the next leaf, it's going to be a good size up from this one. And then we can maybe see whether any King of Spades is going to show up in the characteristics. But after I've done filming, I do plan on going in there and just topping it up with more tree fern soil. This is a very tree fern heavy tree fern soil. And I potted these up right before I went on holiday, so it would have been sometime in November. And then the last update is my little Carla beev seedlings. So that's Carla Wu 1 Self crossed with Carla GPH by beev round. And they are also starting to size up. Well, you can't see it. I don't want to tilt it over. The second leaves on these have been a really nice size up. Do you see that? And then the newest leaf. And the veins are starting to show up a little bit. I just got these potted up in square pots. So before that, they were in these little celled seedling domes. They were like 1 seedling per cell. So these are ones I haven't gotten to yet, but they're the same hybrid, and second leaves have come out. They're pretty much done expanding for the most part. So it's a good size up from the other one. I'm really, really hoping that the bigger size pot will speed things up for it. And overall, I'm just really grateful and relieved that these are nice and strong seedlings, and it just makes me happy that the Carla is a good mother plant. Okay, last little bin I wanted to show you. These are plants that I had stumped. So this would have been about a month ago, where I kind of did a cleanup of these exos, got out plants that just weren't doing well, cut like ugly leaves off, and just stuck them all in a bin like this with a closed top. So we've got some wins and one plant that's not doing so well. The first little win is this Bessier Af. It is so cute. Look at that new leaf. I had half a mind to sell this because when I put it in here, I was like, I don't think I enjoy growing Bessier Af, because every specimen I've ever had, I think I've had 2 or 3, they've always been a bit finicky. They hate living in ambient in my conditions. So I was like, do I really like it enough to keep it? But then this leaf reminded me of how cute this plant was, because it wasn't like, it's not like a regular Bessier Af, it's like different. I remember it being kind of round, compact, short little lobes that curve into each other like ace of spades. And it was very different from my other Bessay apple, which had taller lobes. It was a little bit more elongated. It wasn't the darkest specimen, but I was really in love with the shape and like that really webby venation. And this one has 2 active growth points. So there's a leaf coming out right here, and that's a separate growth point to this one. The top of the stem is completely dead. Like this is rotted. I can pull that. Well, I'm gonna pull that off later. I don't want to do it right now. But this one has been loving living inside the dome. So when I graduate it out of the dome, I'm going to have to find a place in high humidity to grow it. I don't think it's ever gonna live in ambient for me. This one is one that just, it yellowed. I think it was a watering issue when I was away, but this one is Tim's Black by Carla. And this one's from the Homebody, and it just put out this leaf. Super healthy. It hasn't dropped any more leaves. I think this was the only leaf I grew in my care that wasn't really happy. It was growing again at the top of my exo, like where plants go to get underwatered. So I'm not surprised that it didn't do well, but it also has rooted a bit more. I don't actually remember if that's old roots or roots that grew inside of this dome, but it's healthy anyway. The only thing that hasn't put out any growth in here is this GG port, which I strongly suspect that all of this is dead. I probably should just take the whole thing out like I did in my Veitchii last week's video, where I took it out and I found that the whole stem was dead, even though the roots were alive. This one kind of looks like the same thing. Like you can see fuzzy roots here, but this is really dead. I just don't know if anything down here is alive, so I'll probably do that later. But yeah, this bin doesn't get a lot of light. I just keep it like with the lid closed, and it's not under a shelf, it's like next to a shelf. So my other propagation shelf, imagine if it was like sitting right here. So it's not directly under the grow lights, and seems to be good enough for it. Anyways, that is it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if your plants are also starting to perk up. Like deep down inside, I know it's because I've been home and actually taking care of the plants that they're starting to get a little bit better and not look so sad. But like, I also want to believe that it's because spring is around the corner. I know it's not. It's been really cold. It's been icy. It's been snowy. So I know it's not the temperatures. Just in my heart, I want that to be the case. And even though I love winter so much, I am probably looking the most forward to spring that I have ever in my whole life this year. I think it's because like I have a lot of home projects I want to get done, and the more years you have as a plant parent, the more you just like look forward to the revival of life and the spring and things popping up out of the ground. But anyway, I'm going to leave you here. I hope you guys have been having a great weekend so far. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah.